Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Mythgard in Middle-earth. My name is Corey Olson, the Tolkien professor, joined as always by my friend Gryfflet, who is having a snack here in the marketplace at Stoke, which seems a perfectly sensible thing for him to be doing. I'm trying to get my mouse here working. Oh dear. Like every week seems to be a different kind of technical difficulty. I don't know what the issue is. Hang on a second. Okay. Well, okay, there we go. Do I have it? No, I don't have it. What is going on here? Okay. It's always something. I'll tell you, it's always something. Wait a second. No? No. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. We're in now. Very good. All right. So, Gryfflet is ready. Is ready to finish. I feel like we're getting towards the end of the Broadacres, as we've been to all the towns now, and we've pretty much finished all the towns. Although we've not really been sent to the orc camp yet. We explored the orc camp, searching for the random mob we were sent after, but that seems like the next thing. But I'm supposed to go put out fires. That's what I was sent to do. So I'm going to go on fire patrol. But first, something even more important. And the more important thing is cosmetics. So I just got my 6th anniversary gift box. There we go. And I need to see what things look like here. Okay, so and 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 okay, I think that's it. Apply. Yes. Ooh. Wow, that is very snazzy. Oh, Carry-On's little leg thing. There aren't leg things to match. Hang on. I'll have to take off the leg things. Can we take off the leg things? There we go. Better without them. Okay. All right. Hey, okay. Let's stick with it. We've been wearing those Sutcrofts, that Suckcroft stuff for a really long time. Go with the fancy blue and gold. All right. Excellent. So, while I put out fires, let's get to lore questions. And of course, I saw that Lotro stream, I believe that was Cordovan, was asking. I'll make sure I get the question right. Could Middle-earth have had submersible diving bells? Diving barrels, essentially. Something like that. This is an interesting question. Could that happen? Well, yes. I think it could happen. Yes, is my tentative answer. So, here's the first thing. Oh dear, I'm going to have all kinds of issues here. Fires of Isengard. Ooh, a new quest? Oh. It just, I don't have to accept it. It just appears. Defeat Wargrider Defiers. Oh man. That is seriously bad news. Let me see if I can do this again. I can't get it to capture my device appropriately. No. Really weird. Never had that problem before. Well, I'll have to do this old school. Okay. So, submersibles. Before I even address the question of submersibles, let me address a kind of a broader question. Here's the thing that question makes me realize or think of. And that is, isn't it interesting that there is so little that kind of happens in the water? Right. So my first impulse is, when I think about it, is, well, I suppose it would be possible, right, for some kind of, bell helmet submersible situation. But I realize as soon as I say that, I can't actually imagine. Revenge. I realize that I can't actually imagine anybody doing that. And oh, wait a second. Equip the bucket. Oh, I have to equip the bucket. Oh, wait. I guess I did equip the bucket. In which case, have I not equipped the weapon? Do I have to de-equip my weapons to do this? How does this work? I'm so confused. Okay, I guess I don't. It's using equip in a loose term. Is the bucket? It's not actually in my equipment. Okay, we're using that metaphorically. That's fine. Oh, look at this. So I get this elaborate targeting mechanism. Oh, there it is. They do go out. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Now I just have to choose particular fires that are not near mobs I don't want to fight. Okay. But anyway, okay. Can I do this while moving? Boy, this is tricky. No. Certainly not with my limitations of mousing. So, okay. Right. As I say, the first thing that I think of when I think about submersible situations like this, and I think of when I imagine, elf, dwarf, or human divers, utilizing this kind of thing, I find it hard to imagine. And the reason that I find it hard to imagine is simply that, again, so little. Sam, I think, is not the only one, who has a certain resistance to aquatic things. The sea is an enormously important concept in Tolkien's work. But by and large, it's only a concept. We're told that there are people who love ships and the sea, but we never see it in the story, right? There's even stories that are all, whoa, yeah, let's not aggro the warband, shall we? Oh man, I only got one defiler. Yeah, anyway, even stories that are all about the sea, in a sense, like Aldarion and Arendis, in Unfinished Tales, the Númenórean story. Even there, they don't. There's no real sense in which, the sea plays a crucial role. I mean, it's involved in the story, but I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, it's not really a seagoing story. Like Moby Dick, it isn't. You don't get a sense of the sea. You don't get a sense of. Will you fight me on the ground? Can we just do this on foot like civilized people? Good. Do you see what I mean by this? There's no feeling of the sea. The only story that I can think of, the only Tolkien story I can think of that really spends any time in and around the water, is Rover Random, where, you know, the dog actually spends a whole bunch of time in the ocean, right? Swimming around in the ocean. I don't know. I don't know if wait, why can't this still be used? Do I still have to re-equip the bucket? Did I drop my bucket? Why won't it let me use my skill? I don't understand. What happened to my bucket? I have to go back and refetch the bucket, do I? What happened? Here I am trying to... Okay, picked up. Do I need to be mounted? I didn't think so. Maybe I do. I do? This is a bucket that can only be used from horseback? Okay. Interesting. Anyway, what was I saying? Okay. Yeah. A sense of the sea, being on the water. I mean, part of this, yeah, exactly. Autoflagellator. Tolkien didn't have a lot of experience with sailing. I agree. Tolkien himself never actually, Tolkien himself, again, liked the sort of mythic value of the sea, you know what I mean? But he did not himself sail much or travel by sea very much. So, you know, I think that he was sort of hampered by this to some extent. But I'm not sure that that itself is... I'm not sure if that's the only explanation. Because, yeah, what I find myself wanting to say in response to the submersible question, it's not about, do I think that they could technologically? I do think that they could do it. Would you stop setting my horse on fire? That's really annoying. It's annoying, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Oh, come on. Boy. Okay. Yeah, Edith Eldora says they could add spaceships, but why? Yes. My question is, would they? Would they? And I guess I don't really know. I can't cite any reason off the top of my head why elves wouldn't dive. You know, why they would not be divers. Maybe they would. It just doesn't... What I was I mean, it was... I find this question so fascinating because it's like... it definitely gives me very concrete thoughts that I don't know that I can explain. So I'm trying to, like, analyze them. You know what I mean? I find the idea of elf divers... It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. But I can't figure out why. And that's why I keep coming back to this whole, the kind of the absence of any real sort of life in or on the water in Tolkien's works, because it doesn't strike me as necessarily like there being some kind of like moral or ethical reason why elves wouldn't do this, you know? I don't think so. It would just be, I mean, like, you know, to put on like a, you know, a bell diving helmet and go down beneath the waves, you would think this would just be, you know, a matter of, you know, exploring, visiting, seeing things. You know, those are all perfectly, you know, they would do that. You know, elves would be interested in any one or all of those things. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling with it. Just so so at the end of the day, I feel like it feels alien to Tolkien's world, is kind of, you know, where I kind of end up, and that seems, you know, insufficient, but interesting anyway. Interesting, at least. Yes, the elves do use pearls. We know for a fact that elves have pearls, which would suggest that they must dive, right? But you don't need a bell diving helmet for that. Perhaps it's the particular application of technology that seems to be of a kind that feels to me alien to them. Yeah, I mean, people have been diving for pearls, you know, long before. Oh, good grief. People have been diving for pearls long before there was, you know, there was diving technology, you know, like, you know, technology to bring air down underwater like that. Edith says it feels more Jules Verne than Tolkien. Yeah, in some ways. In some ways, I think it does. Right. I gotta get out of this dude's range. He's gonna sit on top of me. I don't want to waste my time with him. Yeah, I mean, the idea of imagining elves, I do think that is part of the issue, Edith, that I'm also responding to, is the fact that it does feel like a little cyberpunky, you know, like the idea of elves approximating modern technology, you know, through through mechanisms available to them, imagining, you know, a kind of elvish version of modern technology. That's another thing about it, I think, that doesn't exactly feel right. Yeah. That's, I do think that that's part of it. Because as I was suggesting before, when you're asking questions like this, there are really two very different questions that you need to ask. One question is, could they do it? And the other question is, would they do it? And that question I would subdivide as well. The would they do it question I'd subdivide into, would they, like, in a moral sense, like, would it befit their culture and their values to do it? right? And secondly, is this the kind of thing that they would think of? Is this the kind of thing that matters to them, right? Do they have like the drive to do it, if you see what I mean? And that, I think both of those questions have to be answered, in the affirmative before we can really say that, oh yeah, we're imagining that's what's happening here. So yeah, I don't think. Oh, finally. I do not think that. I do, because the second question, by the way, would they do it, is so much more important than the could they do it, because there are actually very few questions to which the answer is no on the first point alone. Could they do it? Could they develop the technology? Yeah. Could they build shotguns and airplanes and yeah, of course they could. Why couldn't they? Right? I mean, elves are very smart makers, and they have each one of them individually, not just as a people, thousands of years in which to perfect their technology. It is very clear that if elves were interested in advancing technology, if this is a thing that they would do, that it's something that they could do. Elf technology is not just sort of like limited by happenstance, like it's elf technology just has not yet developed past this point. They're not interested in developing technology. If they were, they could, but they aren't. And of course, we even get within Tolkien's world, as I've mentioned before on a couple of occasions, one instance in which it did happen, not for elves, but with the Númenóreans, where the Númenóreans do, in fact, develop technology. And that still survives in The Lord of the Rings. A lot of those things, as I mentioned, Tolkien cut out. He originally had Ar-Pharazôn's army attacking with steamships and airplanes against Valinor, and that they had heavy artillery as part of their war machine. But that's he dialed that back a little bit. He backed off from that, but the technology thing is still there. That's why Orthanc and the walls of Minas Tirith are so difficult to damage, and why even the Ents can't hurt them. It's not magic; it's technology. The advanced technology of the Númenóreans. This is why Númenórean stuff is so awesome. Yes. Yeah. So, as I say, the main question is not could they. The main question is would they, and we have to consider both sides of the would they question. Is it something that that would violate their culture? That would be actively, they would feel to be actively bad, in some way. And the second is, would they? Is it something that they would be interested in? Would it even ever occur to them to do this? Because of course technology fills a need, right? Technology advancement happens when somebody sees, like, it would be really great if we could do this, or it would make these things better if we could have a better way to do this. The elves have to be thinking that way, right? It has to be something that they would say that kind of thing about, right? And it's, I have to say, in general, not a kind of thing that elves seem to say very often. I mean, we have to remember this is one of the things in which, their immortality sort of factors into things. JJ says, if they didn't develop deep sea diving mechanisms to recover a Silmaril, I can't imagine them doing it for any other need. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, Edith, that's a really wonderful question. That's a wonderful question. Is exploring an Elvish thing? What a fascinating question. Let's think about that a little bit more. Yeah, I absolutely agree, Autoflatuator, that immortality removes a lot of the incentives for developing new technologies. It surely does, right? I mean, think of how many of our technologies are focused on saving us time and energy, right? Think of how much of our technological advancement is premised upon the need for greater efficiency. Elves don't care beans for efficiency, right? I'm not sure that efficiency isn't a downside for them, right? They would want to minimize efficiency. Yeah. And Dragon Rider, you're absolutely right that they're more interested in maintaining the status quo, for sure. But I'll come back to the exploring question, but let me talk to Fríthild first here. Hey, Fríthild.
Will you help my people?
That the Dunlendings assaulted the Stone Deans and even Torsbury does not surprise me. However, it concerns me that a goblin would bear one of their badges. It means that these evil creatures are more closely in league than I first believed. Dude, I totally could have told you that, Fríthild. Bring word of the danger that threatens the Stone Deans to the town of Woodhurst. Okay. The town of Woodhurst? Wait a second. Broadacres. Woodhurst. Where's Woodhurst? Oh, the Stone Deans. Oh, it's a vector quest. Oh, right. Great. Okay. Got it. Sorry, I was totally not tracking you there. So we're done, Fríthild? There's not going to be a final battle? That's it? Putting out the fires was Ordluck, what do you have to say? I'm supposed to tell you this, right, I guess? I've heard how you fared at Torsbury and grieve Tordag's loss. However, we must not lose heart and put aside sorrow. Wait, okay, we must not lose heart and must put aside sorrow. So not the losing heart. Yes, the putting aside. There are glorious battles to be fought. I must consider our current situation carefully. There is much that needs to be done ere we make a final decision. Return to me in a while and I will speak my mind more openly. Okay. All right. You ready now? Ready to speak your mind? Okay. If you need something else to do while I consider my advice for Reeve Fríthild, I do have a task for you. It would prove valuable if you could learn where the enemy's encampment lies. I know where it lies. Perhaps one of the half-orcs roaming the fields might be able to provide a map. Dude, I've seen it a whole bunch of times. It's already on the map. Search for any maps or orders you can find. And if by chance you find their encampment, look for the tents of their leaders. Any knowledge you can provide me with will help lay the groundwork for our plans to come. Okay. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not nearly ready to vector yet. I'm surprised that Fríthild was... That's why I was confused at first, because I didn't expect a vector quest already. I feel like I'm still in the middle of the story here. We haven't uncovered the traitor officially. We haven't... there's still there's an orc camp as yet unfought. Wait, I missed a quest? Uh-oh. Hang on a second. Whoa, hang on. I missed the stairs too. Can't even do anything. All right, here we go. Which quest did I miss? Oh, over there. Sorry, dude, I didn't see you standing over there. Grimmar is right there. Clearly, we should shore up our defenses and prepare for the coming siege. However, it is not my decision to make. I would advise Reeve Fríthild to call a council of war. Yeah, no, I already talked to Ordlock. Again, I gotta talk to Dudsig and Boldmund. If you truly wish to help Stoke, post these conscription notices and gather our supplies. Okay. We need swords, shields, armors, and spears. We have had craftsmen throughout Stoke producing them for us with instructions to leave the finished products in their yards. Gather them and bring them to the armory stockpile outside the mead hall. Right. Okay. Great. Alright, I can do that. Anybody else in here? Dudsig, I think, is still down and... Hang on a second, let me get outside. Okay. Alright, let's see. So where am I meant to go here? War is coming. Oh, good. They're right here in town. Excellent. Okay, maybe that is... I misunderstood. Why did she talk about Woodhurst, then? I'm so confused. Her quest isn't a vector quest, but it sounded like she's like, we must alert Woodhurst. So I thought she was sending me on to the Stone Deans. But then, in fact, her quest is just to talk to people who are right here. By the way, Dudsig is in town? That can't be good. All right, let's see. Oh. Yeah, concert's still going on over here. There's the hair. We go. There's the swords. Great. Okay. Dudsig is moping out back, is he? All right, I'll go find him. Okay, anyway, so back to the technology question. Except, wait, I forgot. We're talking about elves, technology, immortality. Exploring! That was it. That was it, Edith. Okay, exploring. Would elves be explorers? On the one hand, it seems like a very elvish thing to do. Getting to know Middle-earth, right? Seeing new things, right? New things to, that would be delightful, right? One can easily imagine elves enjoying that. But it doesn't feel right again. It doesn't feel right. And I think it's not the action of exploring. It's the attitude of exploring. Yeah, Edith, that's exactly it. Who was that? Matt who was saying that? Yeah, Matt DeForest. Yes, elves would wander rather than exploring. That's exactly the conclusion that I was just coming to as well. That it's not the action, it's the attitude, as I was just saying, right? Exploring, when people do exploring, right? They do exploring with the, sort of the attitude of there. Isn't there this kind of overtone of mastery, right? Like of dominance almost. To take the unknown and make it known, right? You're kind of like there's a sense in which you're now possessing it. You're adding it to your hoard, to use Tolkien's language from On Fairy Stories, right? There's something at least vaguely kind of acquisitive and dragon-like in that whole attitude, right? When we explore places, right? Once a place has been explored and mapped, it correlates to being claimed. I mean, you think about like colonial explorations, right? I mean, like when you discover a new country, what do, right? A new land that no one's ever seen before, at least no one in your country has ever seen before, right? What do? You plant your flag there, right? That's the kind of attitude that does tend to get associated with exploring, that feels like it kind of fits with exploring, and certainly does not that is not at all Elvish, right? So yeah, it's sort of being this systematic that I find kind of tricky. Is there somebody? Where's this other person? In here? Oh, in the inn? Aha. I've tracked you to your lair, Baldmund.
Our mission is dire.
I was chosen by both my people, the refugees of Torsbury, and the townsfolk of Stoke to speak for them. I believe we must first provision the town for siege before aught else. Okay. While you are here, I could use your help. My people and the townsfolk of Stoke have both asked me to speak for them and to make sure their needs are not being overlooked. I do not doubt Reeve Fríthild's concern, but there seems to be plenty of battle preparations and little provisioning. I would take some hunters out myself, but there are too many wolves roaming the fields. Would you call the wolves' numbers and hunt up some provisions for us? We need meat, hides, and ivory. The meat and ivory can be gathered from the deer to the north, east, and south, and from the Aurochs to the south, and hides from wolves, deer, and auroch. Whoa, okay. Ivory. Oh, from deer horns. Okay. Okay. And defeat wolves. Okay. Wow. Boy, this next round of quests is not messing around. Okay, and so this is probably Dudsig lurking out here, right? Okay, so, and then what's the tracking one? Oh yeah, collect the map and the orders. Yeah. Okay. Well, am I headed the right way now? Yes, I am. Dudsig skulking out here. What kind of dude sets up 4 tents for himself? A suspicious one.
Our mission is dire.
I would strike at the heart of the foe. Would you? If you wish to be of any true use to the people of Stoke, you should deal with the dangers that lie to the east. East? Warg riders. Oh, gosh. Okay. And wolves ravage the countryside. They will quickly become a threat to Osserly as well. You are no stranger to the ways of mounted combat. Sadly, no. So you should have no difficulty in dealing with this threat. It's not my courage that is being challenged. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so if you see what I mean about that association between exploration and mastery, that's the whole attitude that makes me want to say, no, elves would not explore. But again, they might. They just wouldn't do it that way and for those reasons. So it would look different. It would look and feel different. It would look and feel different than other, than sort of traditional human explorations. They would, I don't think they would, again, like Matt said, wandering, not exploring. Okay. There's a bunch of brigands there for no reason. Hey, it's a wolf. Right. When you were playing a hunter you liked mounted combat, then you switched to a minstrel and discovered my pain. Yeah. Even as a guardian, which is my other primary experience, it's less painful than it is as a burglar. Okay, there's the sheep. Okay, I got one hide and one wolf, so that's handy. And where was... right behind me? This is one spot that I'm looking for here. Who's that dude? Named dude. Yet he doesn't seem to be linked to any of my quests, even though he's in the spot. Huh. Strange. Okay. Yeah, so not appearing in this quest, indeed. Okay. All right. As soon as I deal with this goblin flanker, I'm going to get another lore question. These guys are so much better to deal with than those darn defilers that kept setting my horse on fire. I mean, of all the, like, horrible things to do to somebody. Hard to get more terrible than that. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, other question. Bill Stickers has a whole bunch of questions. And he's asking, what is it with dwarves and goats? Dwarves ride on goats in Lotro as well as in the movie. Is there any reference to that in Tolkien's text, or where does it come from? I do not know where it comes from. I know of no reason to associate dwarves and goats particularly. I cannot recall any instance in the text of dwarves riding on goats. So I cannot perfectly explain the association. All that I can say, I mean, the only thing that makes any sense at all to me, the only thing that makes any sense at all is that, I hit the wrong button, is that, well, dwarves are small, right? And so there's a desire to have a mount for them that's smaller than horses. And it's the beards, likely about. That's a really good answer, actually. Yeah, it's the beards. I can get behind that. Anyway, yeah, so like it's got to be something smaller than horses, right? And goats, there's something about, like, I will admit that it seems to work. Maybe it is the beards, likely about, but I mean, like, what are your other options? Sheep? That doesn't seem right. Pigs? Like, also they did in the film. You know, that's more or less ridiculous. And I say ridiculous because I don't think that pigs would make good mounts at all. Not that I think goats would make excellent mounts, mind. I feel almost guilty chasing this guy down. He was really just trying to escape. I felt like I was persecuting that poor archer. But I've found the map. I have to collect the enemy's orders, which are everywhere. There's nothing but orders. Anyway, let me continue with wolves and wargs. Yeah, I agree. Pigs are pigs, and I agree. Yes, it's true in the book. Certainly in the Hobbit, they just ride on ponies. I honestly think both for the films and for the game, I think there's just a desire for variety. You know, like, why did Thranduil ride on a moose? Answer, for variety, and because it looked cool, you know, and it, you know, created this really nifty, like, woodland king feel, right? But there's certainly no warrant for that kind of thing in the text. So yeah. Mammoths to ride in Lotro. Oh man, I only wish, dude. I only wish. One of my top requests. I just want to ride a mammoth. Is it too much to ask? I wouldn't think it would be. But you know, I've not gotten my wish yet. I want to take a mammoth back tour through Aurochs. That's all. That's all I really need. To find contentment. Nah, I'm content enough already, but it would be a source of very great comfort and satisfaction to have a mammoth ride through Aurochs. What do I think Tolkien would have thought of the movies? Which movies? No, any movies. Look, so here's the thing. Here's the thing to keep in mind. Tolkien was interestingly divided in his mind, I would say. Interestingly divided in the sense that on the one hand, Tolkien was very much in favor, in principle, to other people collaborating. He spoke of, how he was hoping that, others would come along and, that he would be writing this circle of tales that others would come and would join with music and with brush and pen and all these things, and it's a beautiful idea. But whenever, almost any time anybody actually did it, he was really critical, right? I mean, so he has this really collaborative concept in principle, but in practice, it's harder. It's harder, and he had a harder time with it. So there's some people who speak as if Tolkien would have hated the very idea of the books being made into movies, and that's not true. Christopher Tolkien came to hate the idea of the books being made into films, right? And, Christopher was quoted, saying things like, he came to say things like that, way back 20 years ago when the films were coming out and had just come out, saying that he thought that The Lord of the Rings was, remarkably ill-suited to that kind of adaptation, which I think he's just sort of clearly and manifestly wrong about, I would say. However, that was Christopher. That was not Tolkien. And okay. All right, I don't want to be on horseback. So yeah, Tolkien did not oppose the idea of adaptation at all, but he was very picky about adaptation. He was still a perfectionist when it came to it, and so would have lots and lots of nitpicks about the actual product. But he did not oppose, again, in theory, in concept, he did not at all oppose it. And I think was actually genuinely interested in the idea. Right, Phil says that Christopher had also suffered through more rubbish adaptations than Tolkien. Yes and no. I mean, obviously, because he lived longer and saw more things, he did, but Tolkien had to suffer through a whole bunch of rubbish adaptations that fortunately never saw the light of day, right? But I'm telling you, there is nothing like, you think of the Zimmerman script, the Zimmerman film script that Tolkien commented on, which you can read in his letters, his comments on the Zimmerman script. I'm sorry, there have been a whole bunch of rubbish adaptations of The Lord of the Rings, but there's not anything so bad as that. I mean, it's not even close. The Hobbit films are better. I'm not going to kill a fawn. That's just mean. The Hobbit films are better. Way, way better. I mean, different ballpark better than what Zimmerman was wanting to do. And forget, what's his name? Blanking on his name. The guy who, Excalibur? The guy who did the Excalibur movie? Borman? Is that right? Oh, why am I blanking on his name? Borman. Yeah, John Borman. John Borman had a script written to adapt The Lord of the Rings. That's what he was going to... He did Excalibur. When that project fell through, he turned to Excalibur instead. But oh my goodness, you don't even want to know. You don't even want to know what John Borman had in mind. Except I think a Galadriel love triangle was involved. And Éowyn might have been involved. Was it incest? I forget. I mean, like, horrible. Like, I can't even. I can't even. So, worse than the Beatles. Yeah, the Beatles were just campy, right? I mean, yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's so anyway, so like, yeah, there was no shortage of horrible ideas. Right. Autoflagellator says, being open to others adapting your work, but being horrified when someone touches your baby is a contradiction that is very relatable to me. Yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, it's understandable. I don't, you know, I don't knock Tolkien for his, the deviation, you know, between theory and practice as far as his relationship to adaptations went. It's totally understandable. But it's also not just that. Like with Tolkien, it wasn't just about your baby. I mean, I'm not saying that's uninvolved, because it totally was. But what I mean is that with him, it was also about, I say perfectionism rather than possessiveness, because in the end, I don't think that possessiveness was his problem. It really was perfectionism that was his problem. Let me say the difference. Like, I don't possessiveness would lead you to object to someone else's suggestion just because it was someone else's suggestion, and therefore their ideas about, you know, your characters and your story necessarily are not identical to your ideas about your story and your characters, and you have a hard time letting go and seeing it done in a different way than how you would think about it. And that wasn't exactly Tolkien's issue. Tolkien's issue was much more, he had really high standards for consistency, and he would get frustrated pretty easily when he felt that things didn't work. He was a sort of a ruthless analyst of his own suggestions and other people's suggestions as well. I don't think he was, you know, wildly inconsistent about that. Think about in his letters, and I love this about Tolkien. It's one of the things that I really admire and that I think is a lot of fun. You go to his letters and you look at how he talks about his own work, right? He never talks, almost never, talks like an author. You know, he doesn't ever say things like, well, here's what I was getting at, right? Or like when somebody asks him a question, he doesn't answer from the vantage point, like, since I am the author and can therefore have the freedom to make up and say whatever I want to say because it's my world, right? So I can make it say whatever I want it to say, and I can make up new stuff at any point. He almost never answers that way. When he answers questions, he tends to answer questions like a reader rather than like a writer. He doesn't come from the vantage point of the authority that his position as author gives him. Instead, he comes from the vantage point of someone who has read the texts really carefully. So he'll just say, like, well, you know, here's what the text says, and here's what that suggests, and here's, you know, if that's true, given what Gimli says in this passage, or, you know, or whatever, then therefore it stands to reason that this would, like, then also be true, and that this, you know, must also be the case. And you know, so he's always kind of building his arguments like that, rather than as I say, than merely saying, you know, okay, as the the one who is the arbiter of what would or would not happen, the only possible source of, Middle Earth lore. Here's what I say. Do you see the difference there? And like I said, I find it fun. It's part of the sort of fundamental humility of Tolkien's whole approach to his writing. Which I find an extremely attractive approach for a writer. Right. Autoflagellator says he read the scripts like he was grading a student's paper. Yes. The work of a particularly lazy student, right? Again, like their ideas, he had a hard time engaging when they were like just wanting to take the story in a completely new direction if it didn't make any sense, right? And he did obviously make some sort of initial assumptions about what what adaptation should do, right? That what the link between the adaptation and the original should be. He was not just anal about it, and nor was he merely possessive. And the point that I always come back to, you go to his response to the Zimmerman script. Here's all you need to know. He recommended that they cut Helm's Deep. The Battle of Helm's Deep. He was ready to just do away with it. Just cut it. It's extra. He was saying it may be just too similar to, you don't need two big battles. Why would you need the Battle of Helm's Deep and the Battle of Pelennor Field, right? So just stick with the Battle of Pelennor Field and cut out Helm's Deep, right? Somebody who says that is not somebody who is just clinging, right, to their own invention at all costs. Okay. Gotta find the Aurochs now. Boy, this is taking a while. Okay, so we've got the... where's this one? Oh, I already did that one. Okay, that's what my problem is. All right, so now I've just got the two. I've got to find the enemy's orders, which hopefully could be found on almost anyone. And I've got to kill a bunch of Aurochs. Okay. So Tolkien did assume that if you're doing an adaptation, it does need to be, linked. It has to show respect for the original, because if it doesn't, then you're not doing an adaptation. You're just telling a new story. It's that there's something almost... He seemed to get... sort of offended. Not I think, personally offended. I am affronted as a creative artist that, you would do this with my work. But rather, it's lying, If you say you're going to do a film adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, and yet you show not the first interest in what The Lord of the Rings is doing, right? About, what the Lord of the Rings story is interested in, or anything like that, then you're not, insulting him as an artist. You're insulting your audience, right? You're lying. You're trying to sell something that is false goods, Okay. Try to find a mob who's more or less on his own and who is not in fact a defiler. I'm done with them. Anyway, so do you see what I mean by that? How do we get off on this? What were we talking about? Goats? Is that where we came from originally? Okay. That was a little circuitous. that we finally got back to there. Oh, and by the way, one thing I wanted to add. Did I find the orders? Darn it. Oh yeah, Christopher Tolkien. Christopher Tolkien and his statement that he thought the movies were a bad idea. I don't think that even Christopher actually believed that. That is to say, he only made those statements after a long period of frustration, basically. Like, those statements were an expression. It was not like a theoretical statement, you know? It wasn't him saying, you know, I've considered this question objectively, and, you know, I believe that, you know, this is a bad idea for these various reasons. What actually happened? Oh. What actually happened was that he attempted to work with them for a long time, and things kind of went from bad to worse. He got really frustrated with where things were, and then basically tried to distance himself from the entire project, essentially. And I think that that's, in my mind, that's what his statements were basically saying. Was that this this project, like, I want to distance myself as far from this as I possibly can. I'm done, is what I heard when Christopher started talking that way. Anyway, what are these horses doing up here? What's this little campsite? Why did they build a campfire as big as their tent? Good grief. Yeah. Anyway, did I ever see the Super Friends cartoon Middle-earth episode? No. No, I didn't see the episode. I heard about it, I think. I'm pretty sure I've heard about it. But no, I haven't seen it. I didn't... Did I accidentally find the orders? Oh, I did. I just didn't notice. I collected the enemy's orders. Great. Okay. I have to locate the camp, which I'm reasonably sure where it is, but I can do that. And kill some more cows. Okay. All right. Hey, do those fires I put out stay put out? It's kind of nice. I keep shifting directions. Sorry. Adjusting to my mouse situation. All right. Also no cows, but I can always find them after. Okay, here's the camp. Are you going to give me a whole bunch of new quests when I get to the camp? Yes, you are. Mabaj's tent, Ushatar's tent, Ilska's tent, and Kledwon's camp. Tent, rather. Okay. Let's see. Well, there aren't that many tents in here, so... Oh, look, I did locate it. It wasn't labeled, though. So that's Mabaj's tent? This little one? Was that a dead cart? I think that guy's quite dead. No need for him to fool anybody. Why have they kind of like... Are those furs for decoration or insulation, do you think? Not very efficient installation, but then again, or insulation, but then efficiency doesn't seem to be a big concern of the orcs either, for a totally different reason. Okay. Whose tent is this? No, but surely this is somebody's tent. No? Okay, well, we'll see how we do here. Would probably do better if I weren't stunned. Come on, Gryfflet, up and at him. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay. Yikes. This wasn't anybody's tent, after all? Well, at least I liberated this backpack. That's important. Okay. Do better with your stealth, Gryfflet. That's nobody's tent either? Alright, I'll look up inside the main camp. Yeah, JJ says, Christopher complaining about how the movies were completely bad and wouldn't bring in serious readers makes me wonder how many people started getting interested in Arthur legends and medieval stories because of Monty Python. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, first of all, there is... there's nothing concerning which, Christopher Tolkien was ever more plainly and obviously wrong than in his assertion or fear, perhaps one could say, that the movies would, bring in no serious readers. That it's, I can understand his fear. I really can. I mean, I don't want to, I'm not just trying to diss on Christopher Tolkien. I have no doubt that I would have been similarly frustrated if I had been in his position. I have no problem empathizing with his feelings in general about this stuff. And I think it was a very reasonable fear of his that the result of the films, as he saw it and as he saw them at that time, would be to, turn off readers. That this would be that there would be a net loss to, Tolkien readership. That the films would replace the books. But it was not so. It was not so at all. Now, are there many people who know the movies instead of the books and think that they know Tolkien? Yeah, of course there are. But those people hadn't read Tolkien. and wouldn't have read Tolkien anyway. So you've not lost anything by those. In fact, you've still gained, because all of those people who have only seen the movies and not read the books know something about Tolkien and often like something about it. You can have a conversation with these people about Tolkien and Tolkien's works, and you can potentially, the possibility exists for one to like excite them to further interest and lead to the possibility of their reading the books later on, when there would have been small recourse to such a thing without their interest in the films. As I say, I can understand why Tolkien was thinking what he was thinking, or why Christopher Tolkien was thinking what he was thinking. But at the end of the day, he was wrong. Just utterly wrong. And I have more firsthand experience with this than I can possibly, keep track of. The number of people over the last 20 years that I have spoken to who have become, the number of scholars, like the number of published Tolkien scholars and PhDs who only read Tolkien because they saw the films first. But again, like I said, it was not unreasonable. It was not unreasonable for him to fear that, to dread that. Good. Tomas says, I am one of those. I saw the movies first and could perceive there was something really deep about the story. Started reading avidly the books right after, other Tolkien books later, and then books about Tolkien. Exactly. And you're right, Phil. Or sorry, not Phil. JJ. Thinking about the Holy Grail, right? Thinking about Arthurian stuff and Monty Python. You were absolutely right. I've often joked in medieval literature classes that one of the perks of reading medieval literature is that it makes Monty Python and the Holy Grail even funnier. Absolutely. It's a really, really smart book. The Pythons, and especially Terry Jones, he was the most enthusiastic medievalist of the Pythons, and he had a lot to do with the Holy Grail, with sort of the concept of the Holy Grail. He's the one to whom I give most, not all, but most credit when it comes to the really pretty remarkable sort of accuracy of that there. JJ was saying that he thinks that it sounded like Christopher was speaking emotionally. I think he was speaking emotionally, but I think it was more than just emotional, though. I think it was also... I think it was also legal. Again, like I said, he wanted to distance himself from that project emphatically. Like that was what he wanted. That was what he felt needed to happen. Oh man, have I not been getting Aurochs meat from the calves? I guess not. Why not? A little bit of veal? That's nice. But I'll stop picking on the children. Sorry, we were for a while talking about the Peter Jackson movies. Okay. Not fighting a defiler, thanks. 97. Good grief, I only noticed after I started attacking him. What a ridiculous number of morale points this bull has. Can I stun you? Are you stunnable? Oh, you weave all over the place like a drunken ox. That's kind of fun. All right, we're getting there. I think I should get 2 packets of meat from a bull of this size, right? I mean, how much Aurochs meat could one hobbit be expected to carry? I know I should filter that quest. I don't want another bull. Do I have to fight another bull? I'll fight another bull. Hang on, let me heal first. Okay. Another lore question. Oh, man. Bill Stickers asks, why were there seasons in the First and Second Age when the world was not yet rounded? Yes. Classic question. There shouldn't be. Answer, because Tolkien wasn't thinking about his story that way yet. It's funny to think about. It really is. Because Tolkien... We all admire Tolkien's attention to internal consistency and the thoroughness with which he thinks through things. This is the first thing that we associate with Tolkien, and with good reason, right? You read The Lord of the Rings, and the way that it conveys that sense of reality, that sense of plausibility because of the way that things have been thought through and how well everything holds together. And so a lot of people feel like this is like, it's your right in a sense, you know what I mean, to expect that from Tolkien, right? And so therefore, like, the idea that Tolkien would not do that, would not think that way, would not write that way, seems like a violation of the natural order, And yet, it was totally true. Tolkien did not write that way for a long time, because it wasn't the story he was writing. In the Silmarillion, when he was writing the Silmarillion stuff, especially in the early days, before he wrote The Lord of the Rings, this is something that's really interesting to think about. All of those things we associate with Tolkien, again, very rightly, I'm not trying to say it's wrong, attention to detail, detailed world building, internal consistency, all of those things. Tolkien didn't start doing that until he was at more than 50. The vast minority of Tolkien's stories actually work like that. The vast minority. In fact, it's only The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings is almost unique in the Tolkien corpus in this way. When Tolkien was writing the Silmarillion, he wasn't writing he wasn't doing world building. He was writing mythology. It's totally different. When he wrote The Hobbit, he wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing world building. He was writing a fairy tale. That's quite different. When he was, and then other than that, what did he write? Poems, short stories, right? He wasn't doing big consistent world building when he was writing Leaf by Niggle or even Smith of Wootton Major. He didn't articulate the world of Wootton Major and Wootton Minor, nor of Fairy. That's not what his interest in Fairy was in Smith of Wootton Major, right? He wasn't doing any of those things in any of his other stories. It's only in The Lord of the Rings that he became really interested in writing this kind of story. This kind of story that would hold together like that. That would be... remember in his preface when he talks about history, real or feigned? This genre of feigned history, right, is new for him. He'd never worked in it before. I'm trying to think of a single example where he'd done anything like this. And I don't think there is one. Almost everything else when he was doing came after, right? So, oh, hang on, I'm gonna start with Dudzig here. So when you start asking questions, this is a thing that is often very difficult for Tolkien readers, because Tolkien readers, the vast, vast majority of whom, are sort of focused on the Lord of the Rings, have been sort of trained by the Lord of the Rings. If you've been trained by the Lord of the Rings, you're going to expect that everywhere you go in Tolkien's corpus, right? You might expect to find it even in things like Farmer Giles of Ham and Smith of Wootton Major, but you're certainly going to expect to find it in the Silmarillion. And it's obvious you're going to find it in The Hobbit, because The Hobbit is a contiguous story, in theory, right? With the Lord of the Rings. But in fact, you find it in neither place. That same adherence to internal consistency. This is why the dwarves in The Hobbit don't have weapons at the beginning. It's a fairy tale. It's just kind of a silly story in a lot of ways. He's not focusing on the kind of consistency, and that's why he didn't maintain consistency in that. So anyway, in the Silmarillion, he's doing mythology. He was not doing, and all that stuff comes from the early period. He's doing mythology. He's not doing world building in the same way. So that question, why are there still seasons in Middle-earth when the world is flat, is a very sensible question. But it is a sensible question which is ultimately irrelevant to that world. That world doesn't answer that question. No. It doesn't make sense. Yes, the variation of seasons is a result not only of, a round planet orbiting the sun, but a tilted planet orbiting the sun, right? That's, yeah, exactly. So, you wouldn't have the same things on a flat world that you would have on a round world, and they wouldn't operate the same way. But again, Tolkien's not thinking about that. He's not thinking in that way at all. And you can see that. Now I've referred to this many times because our discussion of Morgoth's Ring, the Morgoth's Ring volume of History of Middle-earth it's the most recent volume that we've done, but it was a big deal. I mean, it was, there's a lot in there. It was a long class, but there was a lot to discuss. And that's what you see. What you see is after he wrote The Lord of the Rings, he wants to go back and he wants to revise the Silmarillion to make it fit. And first and foremost, that is what he's doing. And this is why the Silmarillion was never finished. Because he's not just adding material. He's not just reconciling facts. He was fundamentally changing the genre of the Silmarillion. And it required not only a complete rewriting, but a complete rethinking of the entire approach to everything from the ground up. And he wanted to make it into exactly the kind of consistent, feigned history that the later Lord of the Rings had become, right? But that was a tall order, and it involved him changing things like the flat Earth. He wanted to ditch the flat Earth. He wanted the world to be round from the beginning. And to have Elvish natural philosophy, right? Natural history, matching the history of our world, since it was meant to be our world. Yeah, like Leobot, I agree. I wish he did have embraced the chaos and let it be a collection of stories instead. Me too. Me too. And honestly, I always used to think that it was a tragedy that Tolkien hadn't finished and published the Silmarillion in his lifetime, until I read where the direction he was going with the Silmarillion at the end. And then I'm like, actually, I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad, because I think if he had done it, if he had shifted it over, I wouldn't have liked a lot of it. I would not have liked. I like the flat Earth. I love that mythological concept. I like the making of the sun and moon. Don't take the making and the sun of the sun and moon away from me. I want the moon flower, the sun fruit and the moon flower. I like those. Those are fun stories. And in part because I had never experienced mythology like that before. I'm not saying there is no other mythology like that. I'm saying I had never experienced mythology of that kind, and it still feels different to me than like real mythology, right? Like Greek mythology or Norse mythology or something like that. And Phil, I completely agree. The conviction that Middle-earth had to end up being our world was the millstone around the neck of the stories. Completely agree. If he wanted to make the Silmarillion for it to cease being mythology and to begin instead being history, that's not a disaster by itself. But you're right, Phil. The disaster, just cut the cord. It's not our world. It's okay. It's a fictional world. You can say about it whatever you want to say. It's not Earth. Yeah, so that's I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. So anyway, that's no, I don't think he would have finished it to his satisfaction, even if he had had the lifespan of a Numenorian. I think that you're right, Autoflagellator. I think that you're right. He would never have been satisfied, but he might have finished that project, which I'm kind of glad he didn't, in retrospect, right? But anyway, I'm almost done. Let me turn in my quests here. Dudzig.
You ate the horse lord.
You live still? That is too bad. Uh-huh. So it has come to this, huh, Dudzig? You tried to get me killed and failed? Yeah. All right. The time of our reckoning is not yet, Dudzig. Long have I had my suspicions of you. And I have kept my peace to this point, Dudzig. But my patience is not endless. Also, maybe the quest text will finally give me a chance to turn you in at some point. Won't let me jump over even a fire pit of that size? What? Oh, you don't want to talk. You just want me to bring stuff. Fine. So where am I going? I should probably pay attention. Okay, bring the map to Ordlock, deliver the arms and armor, and deliver the provisions. Okay. So where are these stockpiles of which you speak? Here? I seem to be sitting on one. Am I? Was this a stockpile? There we go. Okay. There we go. Lots of meat and ivory and whatnot. And the arms and armory. The arms and armor go in the armory. Okay. Gryfflet has been in Stoke for a long time now. Doesn't it feel like I've been in Stoke forever? Like Gryfflet may never leave Stoke? I feel like we weren't even in Kingsmead as long as this. Okay. Look at that, huh? Look at your little pile. And here comes the little hobbit bringing in all that stuff at once. Oh, prescription notices? I gotta post notices now? Oh. Hang on, let me hand in the other quest just in case. I gotta follow up there too. Alright, let's see. I think Ordlock is the only one I've got to hand the quest to.
Welcome, my friend.
Were you unable to locate the enemy encampment? Ordlock, are you in cahoots with Dudsig? You say that enemy leaders were not present there. Anyone who's this bad to his wife as this guy is. Oh no, am I going to end up killing Ordlock and thus freeing up his wife for a romantic reunion with the new Thane of Torsbury? I have a sinking suspicion. I feel like I'm not done with that unsavory romance plot. Okay, now I have to talk to Baldman, but also, where do I post notices? I post notices down in this part of town. Right, down in the part of town where there aren't many people. Okay, how does one go about posting a notice? On a signpost. That's a signpost? Okay. All right. I just passed one of them. You're right. No, I am a bill sticker. Absolutely. Oh, there's another one. Okay, so they do all look like that? Tower of Shields. That's what a signpost in Stoke looks like, I guess. They do look like Rohirric milestones. Exactly. That's what I keep. That's my issue. Okay, let's see. So I keep they're too conspicuous, you know? If they just looked like posts, but I like these huge towering things, I overlook them. Okay. All right. 2 more. All right, let me pop in on Baldmund while I'm here. Yeah, come on. Up the stairs, up the stairs.
What business have you?
I've proven a friend to the common folk of Stoke and Torsbury. Well, at least you're not trying to get me killed, Baldmund. Alright, so I am getting close now. 1 more conscription notice. And I think I'm done with all 4 of these complicated quests. Let's see, do I get a hint? Okay, up by the gates. By the other gates. Oh, getting warm. Oh, there it is. It just appeared. Was it just me or was it not there before? Okay. That's all good. Okay, Huthric. He's the other guy in the meat hall, right? I think so. Okay. Well, I agree that her husband is a top-tier jerk. I mean, there's no two ways about that. All right. Oh, wait. Isn't this the... No, that's Grimmar. Oh. Which one is Huthric? Baldwin was the one in the inn. Wait, there were those two, and there was... Erg. Where is he? Yeah, in the meat hall, right? Is he outside the meat hall? Ah, there he is. Okay. Aha.
Will you aid the
Here come the louts now. Right. You got a good crop of louts. Hark ye, men of Stoke, the wolves of Isengard snarl upon our doorstep. And the Reeve has need of your able arms. And in the south, Theoden King calls for his riders. This is going well. What do you mean loutish? Okay, Huthric, strong work there. Strong work. Okay. Now I get Grimmar. Your lieutenant is doing a great job.
dire. Greetings. You have a
I
moment,
am more
lad.
confident than ever that we must act quickly and decisively to drive back the foe. These orders you discovered seem to indicate that the enemy is not as strong as they appear, and provide information as to where they might be attacking from. Oh dear. Oh man. I had bad feelings about Dudsig before, now I've got even worse feelings about Ordlock.
There is work to be done here.
If my task seemed irrelevant, be sure it was not. I hope that in the end he's going to be exposed by that girl. I've forgotten her name already. The girl spy? Okay. Oh, is it almost time for the council?
Will you help my people?
I wish to learn something of the minds of my advisors before calling a council. The Council of Stoke will soon be called to
There
session.
is work to be done here.
The time has come to summon my advisors to council. Return to Grimmar, Ordlock, Baldwin, and Dudsig and inform them of my decision. We must decide what action to take and how best to fulfill it. The leaders of Stoke and Osserley each have their own opinions, and they are at odds. We must come to a compromise and work together, or we shall fall to the White Hand. Bring this letter to Alfbert, the guard at my house. Return to me when your messages have been delivered. Okay. All right, well, we'll have to deliver the messages next week, as we are out of time. Whew, but that was a lot of work today. Good grief. I really kept Gryfflet on the hop. Okay, so now I'm feeling like our story is coming to a head. That whole thing about Woodhurst just still totally threw me. Okay. Cool. All right. Good. Well, the council, I look forward to the council, and we will see what happens and how this resolves. We're already chasing the guy from, the spy off into the Stone Deans next, I think. But we'll see. Gryfflet is not done by a long shot. Yeah. No. Okay. So we're not nearly as close to being done with the Stoke plotline as I think we are. All right. Well, we'll see. In any case, Gryfflet shall persevere no matter what. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today. I will be back next week for the Council of Stoke and whatever may lie beyond. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Thanks for joining in on my rambles around Standing Stone's brilliant digital adaptation of Tolkien's world. If you enjoy these adventures, please consider supporting this and other entertaining educational programming by donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.